Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my February mid-month wrap-up to share with you. So far in the month of February, I've read 14 books. I'm filming this on the 14th. I'm currently in the middle of one book, but that will be on my end of the month wrap-up. I'm not going to mention it in this one, but yeah, I read 14 books so far. 12 of those were contemporary romances, one was a fantasy romance, and one was a novella. For a breakdown of star rating, I had 1 5-star read, 2 4.5-star reads, 6 4-star reads, 3 3.5 stars, and 2 3 stars. Not too bad. Good even spread. But yeah, let's just go ahead and dive into the books because I have 14 to talk about and this has to be edited for you guys to see tomorrow. The first book I read was actually Powerless by Elsie Silver. I received an ARC of this book, which I technically forgot that I signed up to get an ARC until it showed up in like my email. And I was like, oh, well, this is our cover to cover book club pick for February. Usually I read it towards the end of the month, but I'm going to talk about it really quickly. I gave this book 5 stars. I thought this book was very, very different from Heartless. Now, if you haven't read this book, not that I want you to kind of lower your expectations, but Heartless was such a good book. It is an enemies to lovers. They have great banter. It is Kate and Willa. They are complete opposites. They piss each other off and all of this stuff like that. With Jasper and Sloane in Powerless, it is very much a more gentle romance, and they are friends to lovers. Sloane is like, basically she's a runaway bride. She runs away from her fiance on her wedding day, and her and Jasper kind of just like get out of town kind of a thing. And there's a lot that happens with the plot. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I just want you to know that it is different from Heartless. Heartless is enemies to lovers. This is friends to lovers. It's a little bit more gentle. The banter is still A+ in my mind. I love the banter between Jasper and Sloane. I love the emotional depth between the romance that they have, but also individually. Like, they have to go through a lot and figure out what they want and stuff like that. I personally really enjoyed it, but then again, friends to lovers is my favorite. So make sure you join us on Sam's channel on February 27th at 7 p.m. EST time. We're going to be talking about Powerless, and I can't wait to talk about it with her. I will be rereading it probably. I'll be listening to the audiobook as my reread. So yeah, really enjoyed that one. The next one that I have is fantasy romance. That is The Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. So this one I was really excited for. I heard a lot of people say this series is really good. Crystal, at Crystal's Bookish Life, she did a whole series review about it, and I didn't watch all of that. Even though it's spoiler free, I didn't want to really know anything. I didn't want to know like anyone's thoughts. I just know that this series is really, really good, and I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it was a solid start to a fantasy romance. I feel like this is more heavy on the fantasy than it is on the romance, but then again, this is a trilogy that follows these characters. So our female character, she is taken at a young age. I wouldn't say taken, but she's like sent off to basically be like this kind of slave, but then you see her trying to buy back her freedom, and she finally gets enough coins for her, I don't know what they're called, the person who like owns her. I hate saying that, but that's basically what it is. Like, he's in charge of her. So she pays herself off, like the debt or whatever. She's a free woman. She goes to the other world, and that's where she meets Maximus. I don't know how to say his name. His name is Max. And I just thought it was a good introduction. It's a good introduction to the world, good introduction to the characters. Like, it was solid. That's really all I have to say. That set up the plot for the rest of the books, I feel like, or at least the second book. And she's just really training in here, figuring out who she is, where she's going, what she's doing, all this stuff like that. There is a language barrier between them two, between like where she comes from and where she's going. So I did find it interesting. There's a lot of things that come up that I wasn't kind of like expecting. Then again, I don't really expect things in fantasy romance. So it was just a good solid read. I enjoyed it. I mean, there's nothing more to say. I want to continue this month because it's Feb and I have all these fantasy romances planned that I want to read, and this is like the only fantasy romance I've read. I'm just like not really in the mood for fantasy romances, but I'm mood reading, so whatever's going is going. Will I get to the rest? I don't know, but I do plan on reading the rest of them because I heard that they get better. The next book I read was A Final Offer by Lauren Asher, and I was really, really nervous because Lauren Asher's Formula One series, loved that series. I thought it was, the first 2 books are not my favorite, but I started with the last 2 books and then I went back and read the first books. You can definitely read them out of order. I don't know if you could read this Dreamland Billionaire series out of order. I mean, I guess you can now, but I've been reading them as they come out. I've said this so many times. The first book is not my favorite in the series. Not my favorite writing. I think it's very like, just not her best writing. The second book I gave 4 stars. It was like a good 3.5, 4 stars. This one I'm rating 4.5 stars. It's not quite a 5-star read for me, but I did really enjoy this. And for some reason, she always does this. Like, the beginning of series are not that great, with her Formula One series is not that great, but the last 2 books have so much emotional depth to them. I was like, wow, okay, we're really going there. That's what this book was for me. I thought this had a lot of emotional depth. I thought this had a lot of character growth and development between both of the characters, between them together. I mean, if you know Cal has a lot of sobriety issues. He basically is an alcoholic, and he's tried to get help multiple times. Hasn't really stuck with him. And part of the will that the grandfather left them, he has to go to the summer house, stay for the summer, and then sell the house or something like that. Well, Lana is there, and he's had a past with Lana. And so it's kind of like them being forced together for the summer and all this stuff like that. And they kind of develop their relationship again after so many years. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. It is thick. I think that this book needs to be this thick. I would say that how do I say this? It's a almost 600 page book. But the font is a little bit bigger, and the pages and the spacing is weird. So I don't truly think this is like a true 600 page book. It's probably more like 400. But I do think it needs to be that long because Cal is a very interesting character. He has a lot of layers to him, and those needed to be uncovered. Without the length of this book, I feel like it would be an like underdeveloped story. So pros and cons, I loved it. I did fly through this book in like 2 days, and I physically read it, so it was really good. I solid 4.5 stars. The next book I read is I can never pronounce this. It's this book right here. Veritas. It means truth, I think, in Latin. And this is by A.L. Woods. So I've never read anything by A.L. Woods. And I decided to pick this up because I saw someone on Bookstagram reading it. And I thought, ooh, this sounds really interesting. Both of the characters are lawyers. She gives me very much Elena Lombardi vibes. She has her mask of her red lipstick, her red bottom shoes. She's very put together, has a perfectly put together apartment or condo or whatever. And I could see the potential with the writing. I felt like she was trying to do so much with the writing. So she was trying to develop this single dad lawyer, and this, female character who has a lot of layers and a lot of trauma, and a lot of things to work through. And I felt like it was missing. Like there were times where I'd be like super into it. I'd be like, oh shit, this is it. This is going to be great. And then it doesn't like live up to those moments where like I've read better, you know what I mean? So I gave it 3.5 stars. Solid 3.5 stars. Would I recommend it? Yes, because I can see the potential with the author, but it's not the best thing I've read. I don't know if I'll continue with any of her other books or just read the books that are coming out that are new, because I feel like if I go back and read her other books, I feel like I'm going to feel the same way about the writing. So there's pros and cons, but I would recommend it. I've put it in a couple romance recommendations videos, either previously or coming soon. I can't remember. I'm pre-filming a lot. And I don't know. I felt like it was there, but it wasn't. And I enjoyed it. I love the banter between the characters. That was really good. So yeah, it was solid. The next book I read was Forever After All by Katarina Mara. This is the first of 2 that I read this month so far. And this one I would say probably is my favorite. I gave this a solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I've also put this in a romance recommendations video coming soon. And I wouldn't say this is second chance, but it's not second chance. I really don't know what to call it. Basically, Elena and Alec or Alexander has known each other since like childhood. Like Elena was friends with Alexander's brother, and they really haven't seen each other or anything like that for years and years and years. Like she was in braces and basically she was a teen last time they saw each other. And at a club one night on the roof, she meets Alexander. She recognizes who he is. He does not recognize who she is. And they kind of have this thing, good conversation and stuff like that. Well, then Elena is struggling with money because she's trying to keep her mom. Basically, she's on a ventilator. Like she's been in a coma for 8 years and she hasn't woken up yet. And she refuses to pull the plug and let her mom die. So she spent all of this money on her mom trying to keep her alive, and she goes to this club and basically trying to sell her virginity, and Alexander is there and he's like, oh hell no, you're just gonna get married to me. So it's kind of like a marriage of convenience for the two of them, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was solid. I think Alexander is a really possessive character, and yeah, it was a good solid 4-star read for me. I really enjoyed some of Katarina Mara's writing. It's hit or miss with me so far, but this was definitely a 4-star read. The next one I read was a mafia romance. I put it under contemporary, and that is Pretty Ugly Promises by C.W. Farnsworth. So this is a new release by her. I have read one other book, which was Fake Empire, and I loved that one. And I gave this one 4 stars. This was a solid. I was actually really surprised by how much mafia aspects were in it, considering I don't think she's written a mafia romance before. So our main male character and our female character, they meet in college at a party one night. She sees him. They get talking a little bit. They have like a 6-month little fling, and then he just disappears. disappears from college and leaves, even though they're both 18. Well, you come to find out he is supposedly the youngest son of the Russian Bratva boss. I forgot what it is. A pecan, I think it is. It sounds like I'm saying pecan, like pecan. Anyway, God, so stupid. So he has to take over the family because his dad and his other brothers have passed away. There's something happened, an accident or something like that. So he has to take over. So he has to leave college and go home. And then you see years later, she has to go to the ER because she like hurts herself or something. And his best friend, the mafia boss, well, his name is Nick. His best friend Alec is there. Alex is there. And he's like, she's like, where did he go? Why did he disappear? And he was like, I can't tell you that, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I have a son with him. And I didn't know where he was. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh shit. So he calls and then they're brought back together and like danger comes up. And I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly was, entertained the whole time I was reading it. I thought the characters were really well developed. It was a good second chance forced proximity. She and her child goes to Russia, be under his protection. Solid read. Would recommend as a mafia. The next one I read was The Legend by Dylan Allen. So I read the first book a couple of years ago and I thought, okay, my library has the audiobooks. Let's just go ahead and dive into this one. And I gave it a solid 3 stars. So my thing with past to present, not past to present, like back and forth, is where we start in the past and then we go forward to the present halfway through the book, is that's a lot of story to tell. And I think there was so much going on that by the middle of the book I checked out. I loved the chemistry at the beginning of the book. I loved them seeing when they're 18, seeing how they develop, how they have conversations about where they want to go in life, all that stuff like that. And you could see that they had a genuine connection. And now that they're older, time has passed. I did not feel that connection when they were adults. And that made me really sad because I was really, really loving it. So like, the first part of the book was like a solid 4-star read. The second half was like a 2-star read. So I landed at 3 stars. That's kind of how I rated it. I was just really like, sometimes you get pulled out of the story with that time jump. And then there was like all these other things that were trying to happen. And I felt like if they would have kept it like very simplistic in the story of just them, like kind of character driven and not all this plot stuff, it would have been totally different, but there was just way too much going on. Way too much trying to happen. Wasn't my favorite. The next one I read was Bad Intentions by Ella Frank. And then I also read Good Intentions by Ella Frank. And I'm going to talk about these together because it's a duet. Follows the same characters. These are audiobooks. They're romances. Each is about 6.5 hours. I wish it was just one book instead of a duet because that's like 250 pages each book, but it's fine. I loved this. This is an age gap. Basically, Gabe and Marcus, they have an interesting meeting. The first book I gave 4.5 stars. Second book I gave 4 stars, I think. Yeah, 4 stars. It was a solid read for me. Marcus is older by a lot. He's in his 40s. I think he's 42 and Gabe is 22. But they meet and Gabe said that he was someone else. He basically said he was his boss, Logan, who's a lawyer, and he's the personal assistant to that lawyer. And then the next day Marcus comes in to try and like do business for his company because there are 2 separate companies, and he sees Gabe and he's like, what the fuck? And his boss is like, fix this. I don't know why he thinks that you're me, but you need to go fix this. And so they kind of have this agreement for a week. Gabe has to stay and do anything Marcus says, and they kind of develop this really good romance. The chemistry was good. It was electric. I loved the narrators. It was hot. It was steamy. It was just a really good time, and I enjoyed the duet. Marcus is Daddy AF. Okay, let's just say that. He is Daddy AF. He's older, but it was so good. So good. So I really enjoyed that one. The next one I read was Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton, and I gave this 3.5 stars. So this one is one that went around Bookstagram, and I was like, okay, what's all this about? Let me see for myself, right? The beginning of the book, solid. Really enjoyed it. Then it lost me towards the end, and I was like, what? It lost me towards the middle. The beginning and the ending were really good. I think for it being a little bit over 400 pages, way too long. Way too long for a contemporary romance. I love this whole, Beck was very possessive. I really enjoyed that. But I just felt like there was like the mundane tasks of day-to-day life in the middle that I personally didn't care about. I'm like, I'm here for the possessiveness. I'm here for the conflict. Like, who else are you going to get mad at for looking at her? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I wanted, and I felt like it lost it. But that was my first book by Kat Singleton, so will I read more? Maybe. With her new releases, but it was hot, it was steamy. The next book I read was a novella, and that was Coming Home by Kennedy Ryan. This is her Audible exclusive, and I enjoyed this. I like Kennedy Ryan because she writes older. I wouldn't say older. They're in like their 30s or something, late 30s, early 40s or whatever, and they go back to their college. Both of them are going back for, well, the main male character, his daughter is at that college, so he's going back for their homecoming stuff, and he agrees to do an interview because he's very well known in his whatever field he is. I enjoyed it. Our female character is the one who's interviewing him. So they come together after having seen each other. And she's like, oh, I thought, you know, like you went off and had a child with someone else. He's like, well, I didn't really stay with her mother. So, you know, what are you doing type of a thing. That's how they get together. Super cute. Kennedy Ryan, solid writing. Gave that one 4 stars. Then I read The Choice by A. Jade. And this one I read in one night. It was a little bit over 300 pages. Now, Memphis and Sky we see in the words, but you do not have to read the words to read The Choice. I say that. Now, I can't say that for The Consequence because I don't know when The Consequence is going to come out, but I also don't know when that's going to pick up. But The Choice is basically before the band is in, like in the words, the band, what is it called? I forgot the band that they're called, but it's way before that. It's when they're kids. Well, we see Memphis and, what's his brother's name? I forgot his name, but we see Memphis and his basically foster brother. They kind of are in the foster care system together, and they kind of just been going from home to home together because they kind of do better together. But this family adopts them or fosters them, and then they, you know, you find out later that they adopted him, but they move in next door to Sky, and Sky is basically being sexually assaulted and raped by her uncle her aunt is just like off drugs. So she like doesn't know what's going on. So there's a lot of triggers in here. Attempted suicide, talks of suicide, all of that stuff. Sexual abuse, rape, physical abuse. There's a lot. There's a lot of violence. There's violence in here too. So I thoroughly enjoyed the story because you really got to see how complicated their relationship is, Sky, Memphis, and Josh's. And the way that it ended, which I'm not going to say how, but the way The Consequence is going to pick up, I don't know where it's going to pick up. I don't know how it's going to pick up. I don't know where you can go from now, like from here with everything that's happened. And I gave it a 4. Did I give 4.5 stars? Yeah, I gave 4.5 stars because I felt like it was just like, I was left wanting more. Now, if it was like the words where you have the before and after in the same book, I might have given it 5 stars, but supposedly The Consequence is like 1,000 pages. We'll see if that's actually true. And then I read From the Embers by Ali Martinez. I picked this up because it's a pretty short book. It's been on my shelf. I saw some people post about it and I thought, why not? This is extremely emotional. So basically we see 2 couples at the beginning of this book. One couple is Easton. I want to say Easton, but it's Easton and his wife, and they're having financial troubles and stuff like that. And then you see his wife, Jessica, her best friend, Bree, and Bree's husband, Rob, and Rob is best friends with Easton. So it's kind of like the 4 of them have been around for a while. Well, they decide to have a date night. Their kids are at the babysitters at one house and they go to the other, and their house explodes and it catches fire. And he's trying to get, Easton is trying to get as many people out as he can. And he picks up the first person close to him, thinking that it's his wife because Bree was wearing one of his wife's dresses, takes him out, and then like the whole house crumbles. So the other two are left in there. So basically it's the wife from one relationship and the husband from another. And they kind of start living together just because the kids are really close and they're trying to like pick up the pieces of what the hell just happened. And it is messy and it is angsty, but Ali Martinez knows how to do a plot twist. And let me tell you, I was not expecting that damn plot twist. Like, I did not see it coming. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? But she knows how to do it. I really did believe the love story at the end. That was my one worry, is that when you have 2 people that are grieving the loss of someone, specifically their significant other and the mother and or father of their children, because they each have children, they're both now single parents, it's hard. Like, it's hard to write a love story. And I personally believed it, and I gave it a solid 4 stars. It was really good. And the next one, the last book I read for this mid-month wrap-up was A Bittersweet Memories by Katerina Mara. I gave this one 3 stars. I was actually severely disappointed, only because it's once again when you have the past and then halfway through the book they go to the present. And with this one too, I felt like such a connection with them at the beginning. This is an amnesia romance, so it's not like past to present, like they forgot or like they know what's going on. It's literally like she gets into an accident, disappears, and years later, Silas, our main male character, is running this company trying to find her and figure out where she went, and she's had amnesia. She doesn't even remember him. And at that time, in the present tense, she's dating his brother that he just now like reconnected with in the last couple years. So I felt that they had such intense chemistry at the beginning of the book, and then when they but when they start to know each other, it just, at the last half of the book, it just felt like it was all about the lust and the sex, and that was it. It didn't have that emotional connection like they had at the beginning. And obviously that could be because she doesn't really remember him, and she understands that they have this connection, but I didn't like feel that connection, if that makes sense. So I was a little bit disappointed with this one, but then again, it could be that past to present where it's like in the middle of the story, it's a break, and then you're like, oh, I feel taken out. And it's like a whole new story and they don't blend together well. So I think that some authors can do that well, some authors can't. But that is the 14 books that I've read so far this month. Drop me a pink heart emoji or something like that because it's Valentine's Day today. Even though I don't have pink nails, pink is my favorite color. I have red nails, that's fine, whatever. Or you can draw me a red heart, whatever. Red or pink heart, we'll go with that. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.